Radhe Radhe friends, today we're going to tell you the story of a true incident that has puzzled scientists and explorers for decades.
Imagine this. The temperature outside is minus 30 degrees.
Thick darkness surrounds you, and the only sound echoing through the night is the terrifying howl of icy winds. On one such night, 9 experienced mountaineers cut open their tent from the inside and ran into the freezing darkness without a second thought. The most astonishing part was that their boots, warm clothing, food, and almost all of their belongings were found safely inside the tent. The real question is, what kind of danger could have frightened them more than the deadly, freezing cold itself?
This is not a fictional story. It is a real incident that took place in 1959 and continues to astonish the world to this day. The expedition was led by a young engineer named Igor Dyatlov, accompanied by 8 other experienced mountaineers on this difficult and challenging journey.
Their dream was to cross the snow-covered mountains of the northern Urals, a place where even reaching the destination was considered one of the greatest tests of courage. Every member of the group was highly experienced, so no one could have imagined that this journey would become the last journey of their lives. Before setting off, they smiled for photographs, said goodbye to their families, and promised to return home safely as soon as the expedition was complete. The first few days of the journey were completely normal. They laughed together, continued hiking, took photographs, and recorded each day's experiences in their diaries. But a few days later, one member suddenly fell ill. He decided to turn back and return home, separating himself from the rest of the group. At that moment, he may have regretted his decision, but the truth is that he was the only person who returned home alive. The remaining 9 mountaineers continued climbing higher, while the weather became more dangerous and unforgiving with every passing hour. Powerful winds swept snow through the mountains, making it almost impossible to see even a few meters ahead. On the evening of February 1, 1959, they pitched their final tent on the mountainside and prepared to spend the night. They had dinner, planned the next day's route, and went to rest, believing they would continue toward their destination the following morning. But they had no idea that this would be the last night of their lives. Sometime after midnight, something happened on that mountain that changed the lives of those 9 experienced mountaineers forever within just a few minutes. Suddenly, panic erupted inside the tent, as if an invisible danger had forced everyone to flee for their lives at the very same moment.
The fear was so overwhelming that no one even waited to open the tent's entrance. Instead, they slashed through the fabric from the inside with a knife. Within seconds, all of the mountaineers had rushed into the freezing darkness without their boots, without heavy clothing, and with almost none of their belongings. The icy winds outside were so powerful that a person's body temperature could drop to life-threatening levels within just a few minutes. Even so, not a single one of them returned to the tent, as if going back inside was even more dangerous than the deadly cold outside.
What happened to those 9 mountaineers after that has never been witnessed by anyone to this day. When no message was received from the group for several days, their families became increasingly worried, and a rescue team was immediately dispatched. A massive search operation began across the snow-covered mountains. But for several days, not a single member of the expedition could be found.
At last, the search team spotted a lone tent standing in the distance among the snow, and everyone rushed toward it. As soon as they reached the tent and looked inside, the scene before them left every single person completely stunned.
The tent was completely empty, yet almost all of the group's belongings were still lying safely inside, exactly where they had been left.
Warm jackets, boots, food supplies, cameras, and personal belongings were all still there, as though their owners were about to return at any moment. Then one of the investigators noticed a large tear in the side of the tent, and the greatest mystery of the entire expedition began to unfold. The investigation clearly revealed that the tent had not been cut from the outside. It had been slashed from the inside by the people who were inside it. Everyone was left with the same question. What had happened inside the tent that forced them to make such a terrifying decision? Outside the tent, numerous footprints were visible in the snow. they led down the mountainside toward the forest. The strangest part was that many of the footprints were barefoot, while others showed people wearing nothing but socks.
In temperatures of -30 degrees. Walking even a few minutes without boots is considered almost impossible. But they had not walked just a few steps. They had continued for nearly 1.5 kilometers in that condition.
Following the footprints, the search team slowly made its way toward the forest, where the mystery grew deeper with every step.
A short distance away, beneath a massive cedar tree, they discovered the first 2 bodies. The sight left everyone present completely speechless. Both mountaineers were wearing very little clothing, and severe signs of extreme cold were clearly visible on their hands and feet. Scattered ashes from a burned-out fire lay beneath the tree, suggesting they had made one final attempt to keep themselves warm. Broken branches high up in the tree indicated that one of them had climbed up, possibly trying to see something in the distance. The search team continued looking around when they noticed another set of footprints in the snow, appearing to lead back toward the tent. Following those tracks for several hundred meters, they discovered 3 more bodies, whose condition was completely different from the first 2. Their bodies lay as though they had struggled until their final breath to return to the tent, only to collapse before reaching it. By then, the bodies of 5 mountaineers had been found, but there was still no sign of the remaining 4 members of the expedition. Snow continued to fall, forcing the search operation to continue for weeks without any new clues, while hope gradually began to fade. Nearly 3 months later, when the snow finally started to melt, the search team discovered the remaining 4 bodies buried deep inside a ravine. Even the most experienced investigators stood in silence for several moments after seeing their condition, because the scene was unlike anything they had expected. One mountaineer had several badly broken ribs, while another had suffered a devastating skull fracture so severe that it was horrifying to see. The most mysterious case was that of a female mountaineer whose tongue was missing, becoming one of the biggest questions of the entire investigation. The most astonishing part was that despite such severe internal injuries, there were almost no visible external wounds on their bodies. It was as if an incredibly powerful force had crushed their bodies from within, while leaving their skin almost completely intact. From that moment on, this was no longer considered just an accident. It became one of the world's most mysterious unsolved cases. Investigators thoroughly searched the entire area, but they found no clear evidence that could fully explain the terrifying events of that night. Even today, no one has been able to say with certainty what happened that forced 9 experienced mountaineers to cut open their tent and flee into the freezing darkness. Today, the entire world knows that place as Dyatlov Pass, where every layer of snow seems to hide an unspoken secret of that horrifying night. If you enjoy true mystery stories like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments, what do you think really happened that night?